Good afternoon, welcome. I'm Greg Schaefer, I'm the president of the Society, and I want to welcome you to the 118th annual meeting, Assembly, and our Assembly keynote of the American Society of International Law. Not all of our members can be here, but I'm proud to say that we're about 1,200 people here at the annual meeting this year. This is an important time for us to conduct our business. We have a few elections. We present honors to people who had great accomplishments in the last year. We commemorate those who have passed, who gave so much to international law and to the society. And we join together as a community. I just want to start by thanking and having all of us just recognize our Tiller House staff, starting with our executive director, the remarkable Michael Cooper. We have 3 members of staff who've really put in an incredible amount of time to make this meeting happen. And so, first of all, just our senior program manager, Taylor Kilpatrick. Our new program officer, is Britta Jelen, and the omnipresent Justine Stefanelli, who has been promoted to be our vice director. And then just also all the others, I'll just mention Jack Carrico, Jimmy Steiner, Josephine Chikongo, Marquita Singh, Selma Laporte, Michael Termini, and Svetlana Starsvit. So just thank you, all of you. Just in keeping with our traditions, what we start is we begin our program by calling to mind leaders and members of the society who we have lost since the last annual meeting. This evening we'll have 3 special tributes. The first is to remember Thomas Bergenthal, who passed away this past September. We'll now hear from Sean Murphy, who will offer brief remarks in memory of his colleague, Tom. Great. I think this is on. Is this?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I think so. In his best-selling memoir, A Lucky Child, Tom Bergenthal reflected on how his experiences as a child influenced his later career in the field of human rights. He said that in his past, and I quote, "His past equipped me to be a better human rights lawyer, if only because I understood, not only intellectually, but also emotionally, what it is like to be a victim of human rights violations. I could, after all, feel it in my bones." In his bones, indeed. Born in May 1934, Tom spent most of his youth confined in the Jewish ghetto of Kelsey, Poland, and then spent 2 years in German work camps, and then, from 1942 to 1945, in the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Sachsenhausen. After liberation, Tom lived initially in Germany, but immigrated to the United States at the age of 17, knowing little English. He received his JD from New York University, and then his LLM and SJD at Harvard. At Harvard, he studied under Professors Richard Baxter and Louis Sohn, who turned the youthful victim of human rights atrocities towards being a scholar in our field, teaching thereafter on the faculties of SUNY Buffalo, Texas, American, Emory, and George Washington law schools. Tom also served in many important non-academic roles, including as one of the first judges of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. But as the capstone to his career, Tom was elected and re-elected to the International Court of Justice, serving from 2000 to 2010. He and his wife Peggy left The Hague before Tom's second term had expired, desiring to spend more time in the United States with their children and 9 grandchildren. Tom received many awards throughout his life, including ASIL's Goler T. Butcher Medal and its Manley O. Hudson Medal, the latter being our society's highest honor. He served for many years on the board of editors of the American Journal of International Law and was a vice president and honorary president of ASIL. Tom died at his home in Miami in May 2023. To his end, Tom well understood that despite great progress in the field of human rights, much remained to be done, and that sadly, many atrocities continued across the globe. Yet he urged others to turn away from cynicism. He said, and I quote, "The task ahead is to strengthen these tools, not to despair, and to never believe that mankind is incapable of creating a world in which our grandchildren and their descendants can live in peace and enjoy the human rights that were denied to so many of my generation." End of quote. Through his extraordinary accomplishments, I believe that Tom Bergenthal played his part in creating such a world.
Next, we'll hear from Frederica D'Alessandra, who will say a few words in honor of Benjamin Ferencz.
Thank you, Greg, and to the whole society for the privilege of joining you in eulogizing our late friend and hero, the inimitable Ben Ferencz, iconic figure who defied classification. Throughout his life, he fought many battles, each evincing a deep-rooted and visionary wisdom. There was absolutely nothing ordinary about Ben, and his achievements are far greater than we often credit him. A committed internationalist and lawyer who witnessed the dehumanization that characterized the Holocaust, repeated in every atrocity committed since, Ben embraced a vision for world peace through international law that rested squarely on the protection of human life and dignity. Tireless and unrelenting, he was known to have pounded on every door and have stalked every hall of power to give a voice to the voiceless during his 75-plus years of service to humanity, as he called his lifelong advocacy. You might know Ben Ferencz as a war crimes investigator and Nuremberg prosecutor, as a victims lawyer, as a scholar and teacher, as an ICC advocate and philanthropist, and even as Mr. Aggression. The list of his accomplishments is endless, as is that of his recognitions, the most important of which is, without a doubt, the Congressional Gold Medal, one of our country's highest civilian honors, which Congress announced would award him for his service to the United States and to the international community. Ben was immensely proud of it and would want me to thank the efforts of those who, like Kip Hale and Ambassador Van Schaak, among many others, worked to make it happen while he was still alive. But as I stand before you today, I want to take this opportunity to speak about the real Ben, the man behind the legend, the one I and others knew intimately as a friend and whose personality and mindset are equally deserving of celebration. A self-described idealist, Ben always put a premium on critical thinking and challenging conventional wisdom. Aware that sometimes survival necessitates the expedient, he wasn't afraid to skirt some rules. Deeply serious and dedicated to his cause, he rarely passed up the opportunity for a joke and always encouraged levity in others. His charm was legendary, as were his generosity, portentous mind, and ingenuity. Ben was the embodiment of a civic leader, never once moved by the prospect of material rewards, but always by his deeply held ideals and convictions, the sincerity of which have, through the years, inspired both admiration and criticism. But Ben never cared. He was focused on his message, which was always one of unabating hope. To those who knew him, Ben's moral compass was clearly the lodestar orientating him, his ideational goals, and the fortitude with which he pursued them. I've often wondered where Ben found his almost superhuman strength to never lose hope, no matter the challenges he encountered. I've asked myself whether 103 years of life of perspective may be the requisite for such a transformative power of the mind and unflinching human resilience, or whether they alone can even be enough. As the world appears today at a breaking point and too many continue to suffer the cruelty of war, we should find inspiration in my friend Ben Ferenc, who embodied the qualities of leadership we so badly need. If he were here tonight, he would tell us the moral agency, visionary leadership, and the true courage of consistently committing to the values of justice and world peace can, as the once did, chart a new course for history. This, in my view, is the morale of Ben Ferenc's story, the very heart of his enduring legacy, for which we all owe him a debt of gratitude. As we say one last thank you to the one and only Ben Ferenc, let us ask ourselves, how do we pay the step forward? Thank you sincerely for the opportunity to stand before you this evening and to honor one of history's truest heroes.
Thank you, Alessandra, and thank you also for the book that you're writing and concluding now on this remarkable man, his remarkable life. So now I'd like to call to the stage Lucinda Lowe to recognize Ved Prakash Nanda, our dear friend who had lost this last year.
Thank you very much, Greg. Ved Nanda died on January 1st of this year, a few months after his wife and life partner Catherine's untimely passing, and at the beginning of his 90th year of life. Ved was a leader in the society, serving as vice president, counselor, and honorary vice president, and had been a member since 1962. He played leadership roles in many other organizations as well, including the ILA's American branch, which will have a toast in his honor tonight at their reception. He was also deeply committed to bringing the society outside the East Coast corridor, hosting many regional meetings at the University of Denver, where he taught since 1972. At DU, he not only founded the International Legal Studies program and served as director of the Ved Nanda Center for International and Comparative Law, but he also served as vice provost of the university for 14 years with a mandate to internationalize the university's curriculum, which he did. Over the course of his career, he taught almost every international course imaginable. It's really a stunning list, but most of his scholarship was in the area of human rights, environmental law, and conflict resolution. His scholarship includes 24 books and many dozens of articles and chapters. He taught the only 2 female secretaries of state the United States has ever had, Madeleine Albright and Condoleezza Rice, both of whom attended the University of Denver. Condoleezza Rice described him on Twitter after his passing as one of her favorite professors of all time, who knew how to inspire students to learn. And the tributes that have poured in since his death echo these words from many quarters. But perhaps what distinguishes Ved the most was his commitment to public engagement about issues of international law. For more than 3 decades, he wrote a column in the Denver Post and was a syndicated columnist in other papers and appeared regularly on radio and television to discuss world events and their legal implications in understandable terms to the general public. He was also an activist. He was instrumental in 2022 in getting India, his native country, to support the UN General Assembly's recognition of the right to a healthy environment. In fact, India gave him one of its highest awards, the Padma Bhushan Award in 2018, and upon his death, President Modi issued a statement of condolences. He's survived by his daughter Anjali and her family, and his successor at the Nanda Center, Kelly Loper, is here at this meeting today, and I urge you to get to know her. Like Tom Bergenthal, Ved's life and career are a reminder of how the US has benefited from immigration. He left India during partition. A Hindu, his family was saved from the violence of that time by a Muslim family. And this experience strongly influenced his work and his outlook on life. His age is now known, but during his lifetime, it was often a matter of intense speculation. and the laughter in this room tells me that you all know this. But we can all aspire to his sustained productivity, his kind and humble character, and to a life that lived the mission of the Society more than anyone I know, educating about international law and promoting international relations on the basis of law and justice. Thank you.
Although time does not permit us to offer special tributes to all those whom we remember in this time, their names appear in your programs. And I invite you to rise if you can while I read them aloud. No, I'm sorry. Somehow this got switched. Let's see. Is that right? General remembrances. That doesn't make any sense because nobody can rise. So sorry. Someone prepare. This is. So I'm just going to read the names of those who we lost this year, who we also wish to celebrate for their contributions to the Society and International Law. Duncan Alford, Armand de Mistral, Peter Hutchins, Kevin McMullen. Please join me in a moment of silence as we remember them all. I wanted to say something else this year, just given the trauma around the world, because it's not just these ASIL leaders we have lost. There's trauma and losses in life everywhere. There's trauma from the violence, deaths, hostage-taking, and horror in southern Israel. There's trauma, horror, violence, and deaths of civilians in Gaza, including the most vulnerable, the sick, the elderly, and young children. There's horror in Ukraine, in Darfur, in Myanmar, and beyond. There's immense suffering of those who are close to us and those we do not know but are part of our human family. There's immeasurable grief that is heartbreaking and touches us all wherever we may stand. I wish to start by acknowledging this trauma and asking you to join me in a moment of silence and recognition. There have been dark times before us. In these times, we forge hope through action. From the ashes of World War II came those who provided the ideas for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Genocide Convention, whose 75th anniversary we celebrated last December, many of us in Lviv. Those radical ideas were debated here by those individuals at the annual meeting of the American Society of International Law, and they eventually became law. Here we hope to create a space in this meeting where we can deliberate over and address the challenges of our time, including with so many young people with us today, so that we may build a more peaceful and just world governed by law. That is why we're here. That is our commitment. I now call this annual general meeting of the Society to order. On the first order of business is the recognition of outgoing officers and members of the Executive Council. I want to thank them all for their service, their dedication, and to express my personal appreciation for their good counsel and fellowship. I ask the outgoing officers and Executive Council members to please rise if you can to be recognized. I would like now to acknowledge the work of the 2024 annual meeting co-chairs and their committee in planning this magnificent annual meeting. They have overcome, as always, innumerable challenges in producing this experience for us. You can see their names listed on the screens now, And I want to particularly thank our co-chairs, Julian Arado, Christina Bahari, and Hannah Gowrie. Thank you. If all members could please rise if you can to be recognized. It's now my pleasure to announce the co-chairs of the 2025 annual meeting, where we'll meet next year. Susan Frank of American University Washington College of Law, Belén Ibanez of Curtis Mallet Provost, Colt and Mosley, and Nawi Ukabiala of Debevoise and Plimpton. I would like them to ask them to rise if you can, so that you can join me in congratulating all three of them on their new appointment of this important task. Pursuant to the Constitution and regulations of the Society, the following members have been nominated to serve on the 2024-2025 Nominating Committee. Gregory Schaefer is chair, the traditional role of the outgoing president. Harlan Cohen, Louis Yamzon, Neha Jain, Natalie Reed, and as alternate, Ann Joyce. Is there a motion, this is a decision item, that the slate be approved? A second? All approve? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we now have the slate is approved. I ask the members of the 2024-2025 Nominating Committee who are present to rise if they can and be recognized. Let me just make a pitch to all of you in terms of the pool that we receive for the nominating committee, to put forth your own names, to put forth other names for executive council members, for counselors, for vice presidents. It's just so important that we have a really strong pool. So please do so if you would. We will now proceed to the elections of officers, executive council members, and counselors for 2024, 2025. First, I'd like to acknowledge the members of the 2023-2024 Nominating Committee for their diligent and thoughtful work in assembling the slate of nominees that is now before us. Hannah Buxbaum served as chair of the committee. It included Abby Cohen-Smutney, Taffy Pasenpanodia, Jeff Dunoff, Jared Wong, and Meg Kinnear as alternate. Would the members of the committee who are present please rise if you can and be recognized? Pursuant to the Constitution and regulations of the Society and the Nominating Committee guidelines, the Nominating Committee submitted a slate of candidates for all elective offices at least 90 days in advance of this annual meeting, and notice was provided to members of the Society at least 60 days in advance of the annual meeting. The names of the nominees appear in your program and on the screen. All applicable requirements have been met. This is a decision item. Is there a motion that the slate be approved? Second, okay. All members in favor, please say aye. All members opposed? Any? Okay, the slate is approved. I ask the new officers, council members, and counselors who are present to please stand if you can, so they can join me in recognizing them. Before we conclude the annual general meeting and turn to the recognition of our honorees, let me ask if there's any other business to be brought before the meeting. If not, I declare this annual general meeting adjourned, and we now turn to our honorees. Okay, to the presentation of honors and awards. First, we recognize our new emeritus members. We just spoke about Vednanda joining since the 1960s. Well, here emeritus members are those who have been members of the Society for at least 50 years and are entitled to all the privileges of membership without further payment of any dues. 50 years, I got a way to go. All right. This year, we recognize 7 members who have attained this status. This is a truly illustrious list and includes some of our most cherished members. I asked those who are present, I realize they haven't been notified, so I'm not sure if they're going to be here, but if you are, rise if you can to be acknowledged. Please hold your applause, though, until all their names have been read. Roland Bieber, Hans Hinderling, Robert Kemp, Michael Matheson, Gerald Schatz, Lauren Stamfili, Christoph Theodoropoulos, and Marcia Wiss. I saw Marcia last night, so I said, you got to come. We now come to the interest group prizes. I invite each winner who is with us and present to rise if you can and receive our applause as I announce your name. The Dispute Resolution Interest Group has awarded their best article in International Dispute Resolution Prize to Veronica Fifthak for her article Against Settlement before the European Court of Human Rights, published in the International Journal of Constitutional Law. Please join me in congratulating her. The winner of the inaugural International Law and Technology Interest Group Scholarship Prize is my colleague, Mark Gia, for his article, Authoritarian Privacy, published in the University of Chicago Law Review in 2024. An honorable mention was awarded to Lena Rick for her 2023 piece, Unmasking the Term Dual Use in EU Spyware Export Control, published in the European Journal of International Law. The International Legal Research Interest Group has selected the World Information Institute. The Institute provides a single search facility for a number of participating Legal Information Institute databases and a separate collection of databases that include decisions of international courts and tribunals, among others. In total, over 270 databases provide content to 48 jurisdictions in 20 countries around the world. Established in the early 2000s, the Institute has stood as an example of and supported many jurisdictions' initiative to provide free and open access to their laws. For those of us who conduct empirical research, thank you. We appreciate it so much. The International Refugee Law Interest Group has selected Sarah Inaz Poursafar as the winner of the student writing competition for Where Do Refugees Stand? The Case for Reconsidering At-Risk Populations in COVAX's COVID-19 vaccine distribution. Please join me in congratulating her. I will now announce the recipients of the awards presented this year by the Liber Society on the Law of Armed Conflict. Please hold your applause until all 3 awards have been announced. The Francis Lieber Prize for Outstanding Book in the Field of International Humanitarian Law is awarded to Marcelo Prieto Rudolfi for her book, The Morality of the Laws of War, War, Law, and Murder, published by Oxford University Press. The Francis Lieber Prize for Outstanding Article in the Field of International Humanitarian Law is awarded to Kieran Tinkler for his article, Does International Humanitarian Law Confer Undue Legitimacy on Violence in War?, published in the Journal of International Law Studies. They also award an honorable mention to Tilman Rodenhauer for his article, The Legal Boundaries of Digital Information or Psychological Operations Under International Humanitarian Law, also published in International Law Studies. And finally, the Liber Society's Richard R. Baxter Military Prize for exceptional scholarship in the field of international humanitarian law by a member of the Armed Forces is awarded to Margaret Materna for her article, Adjusting the Aperture, the International Law Case for Qualifying Unmanned Vessels as Warships, published in International Law Studies. Please join me in congratulating them. Finally, the 2024 Prominent Woman in International Law Award will be presented by the Women in International Law Interest Group at tomorrow's Willig Luncheon. The award will be presented to Karima Banoun, currently at the University of Michigan Law School and former UN Special Rapporteur for Cultural Rights. Karima, congratulations, so well deserved. Okay, we now turn to a prize given by our friends, the International Law Students International Law Students Association, or ILSA, the ILSA Student DAOC Award. We invite Jessica Peak, ILSA board member, and members of this annual meeting committee to present the award. The year's winner of the Student DAOC Award is Jack McNally of the University of New South Wales for his article, Representation, Recognition, Resistance, Rival Governance Before the International Court of Justice. Please join me in congratulating him. You have it. Thank you. In 2018, the Society established the David D. Caron Fund to pay tribute to the life and achievements of our late friend and colleague and a mentor of mine and so many in the Society, former ASIL President David D. Caron, and to perpetuate his legacy. The fund supports the Society's research forum at our important mid-year meeting, which was created by David during his presidency. It also supports annual fellowships to help us defray the travel expenses of students or recent graduates who have been selected to present a paper at our mid-year research forum. Finally, the fund supports the David D. Caron Prize, awarded annually to the best paper presented at the research forum by a current student or recent graduate. David's wife, our friend Susan Spencer, and the Caron and Spencer families have been integrally engaged with this initiative from the beginning. We are privileged to have our good friend Susan with us to present the prize this evening. Susan, would you please join us on the stage to present the prize? I would like to acknowledge the hundreds of donors who have contributed to this important fund. We are privileged. I wish in particular to thank past President Charlie Brower and the Caron and Spencer families for their generous matching gifts. Now I am very pleased to present the 2023 David D. Caron Award to Tobias Traxler of the European University Institute for his paper presented at the Research Forum, Issues of Timing and Pro-Claimant Bias in Arbitration Selection. Please join me in congratulating Tobias. Hey.
Hey, good to see you.
Tobias, congratulations. Thank you. Okay. We now turn to the presentation of this year's Certificates of Merit. First, I'd like to thank the Book Awards Committee for their outstanding work in selecting this year's Book Awards recipients. The committee was chaired by Jaya Ramji Nogales, with committee members Alex Huneas, Shemin Keitner, Jacques Delisle, and John Knox. I'd like to ask Jaya to join Michael and me on the stage to present the certificates. As Jaya comes to the stage, please join me in recognizing the outstanding work of this committee, who clearly have to do more reading than any other committee in the ASIL family. So thank you all. The other members were Alex Huneas, Shemin Keitner, Jacques Delisle, and John Knox. First, the Certificate of Merit in a specialized area of international law is awarded to two books. First, Michael Byers and Aaron Boley for Who Owns Outer Space, International Law, Astrophysics, and the Sustainable Development of Space, published by Cambridge University Press in 2023. The committee citation reads, "The authors of Who Owns Outer Space explore the pressures created by the human development of space on the common heritage principle and present an incisive critique of current approaches, including the Artemis Accords. The result of their joint effort is a wake-up call about the hazards being created by human activities in the absence of a sufficiently coherent and binding legal framework for human activities in space. It is a roadmap for the myriad issues and considerations that must be taken into account in improving the global governance regime for space." So they were not able to be here at the last moment, and so kindly Sharon McCann from Cambridge University Press will accept on their behalf. Yes, okay. The second certificate is awarded to Tommaso Pavoni for The Ghostwriters, Lawyers and the Politics Behind the Judicial Construction of Europe, published by Cambridge University Press in 2022. The committee notes, "The Ghostwriters is an impressive book that provides a rich analysis of the role of enterprising lawyers who brought European Union law into the legal systems of member states through strategically securing intervention by EU judicial institutions to address national laws that assertedly were inconsistent with EU law. The book does an extraordinary job of building the case, both empirically and conceptually, about the key role of lawyers as opposed to judges, which had been the common wisdom, in leading the transformative legal changes for the construction of Europe addressed in the book." Great. Tom, congratulations. The Certificate of Merit for High Technical Craftsmanship and Utility to Practicing Lawyers and Scholars is awarded to Esme Sherlow and Kiran Nazir-Gore for their book, The Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties in Investor-State Disputes, History, Evolution, and Future, published by Walter Kluwer in 2022. Let me ask Esme and Kiran to join us on stage while I read from the committee citation. This book provides an authoritative, indeed the authoritative, guide to the role of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties in the resolution of disputes between states and foreign investors. Its 28 contributors provide a highly diverse range of perspectives from scholars and practitioners active in the field. The book provides an extraordinary, rich, and engaging exploration of the issues at the intersection of investor-state dispute settlement and the law of treaties. Please join me in congratulating them. Congratulations. Congratulations. Esme? The Certificate of Merit for a Preeminent Contribution to Creative Scholarship is awarded to Emmy Taugren for her book, Portraits of Women in International Law, New Names and Forgotten Faces, published by Oxford University Press in 2023. I just learned that Amy could not be with us, so I'll just read from the committee citation. Portraits of Women in International Law is a tour de force that deftly critiques the exclusion of women in international law through an original and exceptionally creative framing. The edited volume puts to work the metaphors of Portraits of Women, which offers an organizing imagery for the 42 biographies of women and gender nonconforming people presented in the book. Each chapter includes an actual image in the form of a painting or portrait representing the subject of the biography. The volume itself is constructed as a portrait gallery, offering a provocative, critical commentary on the idea of a canon, its domination of institutional spaces, and the inevitable absence of women, engaging in a struggle with the architectural blueprint and its profoundly troubling limitations. Please join me in congratulating Amy. We now present the final certificate to the winner of the Robert E. Dalton Award for Outstanding Contribution. We're just going to take one picture. Oh, picture to center? Okay. All right. We commemorate this. There we go. Perfect. Great. Great. We now present the final certificate as the winner of the Robert E. Dalton Award for Outstanding Contribution in the field of foreign relations law. This award is made possible by a generous gift from the Dalton family. It commemorates the life and achievements of Bob Dalton, a cherished member of the society and a renowned authority on the law of treaties, who served for 36 years in the Office of the Legal Advisor at the U.S. Department of State. The Society is honored to present the 4th Robert E. Dalton Award to Robert Hutchinson for his book, After Nuremberg, American Clemency for Nazi War Criminals, published by Yale University Press in 2022. The citation reads in part, After Nuremberg is about an aspect of the Nuremberg legacy that is little discussed, the role of the American High Commissioner for Germany in creating a clemency process that led to all non-death row inmates receiving reduced parole or walking free by 1958. Other scholars have argued that American clemency was a concession to the Germans in a bid to have them firmly on the American side of the Cold War. But Hutchinson introduces an alternative argument, pointing instead to procedural inertia and misguided idealism about American justice. That's in quotes, American justice. The book is beautifully written and thoroughly researched. It is rich on legal and personal details, drawing on new archival material that had been made available in recent years. Robert's unable to join us this evening, but he sent along a picture of himself, I think. Yes, thank you, with the award. Okay. Now, turn to the point of the program at which we confer the honors of the Society. These honors recognize distinguished individuals whose lives and achievements exemplify the highest ideals of the Society. First, I'd like to express my appreciation to the Honors Committee for their excellent work in selecting this year's honorees. The committee was chaired by Tom Ginsberg, with committee members Dapo Akande, Michael Scharf, Monica Pinto, and Fleur Johns. Please join me in recognizing the excellent work of this committee. Tom, could you please join us on stage? The Society's Honorary Member Award was first presented in 1906. It recognizes an individual of American or other nationality who has rendered distinguished contributions or services in the field of international law. We are deeply honored to present this year's Honorary Member Award to Judge Ben Kyoko. Judge Kyoko wrote me and he expresses his regrets. He had planned to be here, but there's a serious illness in his family, and so he could not leave at this time to come with us. But you'll find a description of him and all that he has done in his outstanding career in advancing human rights in your assembly program. Judge Kyoko has served as a justice of the African Court on Human Rights and People's Rights since 2012. He is responsible for some of the greatest contributions to the development and effective realization of international human rights in Africa. Prior to joining the African Court, Justice Kyoko was Chief Legal Counsel to the African Union and Director of the Unified Central Legal Service of the AU. Its organs and institutions, including the AU Commission and its regional as well as representative offices for more than a decade. Please join me in congratulating Judge Kyoko. The Goler T. Butcher Medal has been awarded since 1997 to a distinguished person of American or other nationality for outstanding contributions to the development or effective realization of international human rights. It's named for Professor Goler T. Butcher, professor of international law at Howard University School of Law, who served as assistant administrator for Africa at the U.S. Agency for International Development in the Carter administration, and was renowned for her work to end global hunger. We are deeply honored to present the 2024 Goler T. Butcher Award to Roya Buraman. Please join me in congratulating Roya. Roya, congratulations. Congratulations. The Society's highest honor, the Manly O. Hudson Medal, has been awarded since 1959 to a distinguished professor of American or other nationality for outstanding contributions to scholarship and achievement in international law. We are deeply honored to present the 2024 Hudson Medal to Professor Jose E. Alvarez of NYU School of Law. Jose's full biography is in the Assembly program, but I want to say a few words about him now. He is the Herbert and Rose Rubin Professor of International Law at New York University School of Law. Before entering academia on a full-time basis in 1989, he was an attorney advisor with the Office of the Legal Advisor of the U.S. Department of State, where he worked on cases before the Iran-U.S. Claims Tribunal, served on the negotiating team for bilateral investment treaties and the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, and was the legal advisor to the Administration of Justice Program in Latin America, coordinated by the Agency of International Development. Jose, of course, served as president of the Society from 2006 to 2008. He was co-editor-in-chief of the American Journal of International Law. He's a renowned scholar, having made important contributions through his many articles and books. Jose, congratulations. Let's move over one. Yep. Congratulations, man. You were terrific. Now we turn to something different from previous assemblies. Our current signature topic, cooperation and compliance through international law and institutions, has been active for the past 2 years. Its committee, ably helmed by co-chairs Emma Lindsay, Makan Moise, Mabenge, Blanca Montejo, and Philippa Webb, have organized several major events and activities There have been high-level meetings with permanent missions to the United Nations on existential threats of the 21st century, namely climate change, nuclear catastrophe, and pandemics. They have also executed a campaign called Change Within Our Lifetimes, which invited people to briefly answer these questions. How do you think cooperation and compliance through international law and institutions might change within your lifetime? How do you think it should change within your lifetime? With regard to that campaign, the co-chairs have produced a video to mark the end of the campaign and to highlight some of the responses they received. I think we have the video with us.
Morning, everyone. My name is Dira Tladi. I'm a judge at the International Court of Justice. Cooperation in international law remains anchored in a traditional state-centric paradigm, very transactional. Cooperation should change, in my view, by shedding this transactional character in favor of a more solidarity-based character. In this mold, it would be motivated by the desire to ensure a better world for all. If international law were to acquire this more solidarity-based character, it would likely facilitate greater compliance. Might such a shift occur in my lifetime? This would require a major shift in international law, something akin to what some have called a Grosjean moment. It is unfortunately unlikely to occur in my lifetime. Thank you.
As the world becomes more interconnected, nations will be more likely to recognize the benefits of working together to solve global issues. We are already seeing this trend with the increasing numbers of international agreements and organizations, especially regarding climate change and human rights. As technology continues to advance, it will become more easier to monitor and enforce compliance with international law and institutions, which will further encourage cooperation. The world should become more equitable and inclusive, where everyone should have equal opportunities and access to the basic human rights, and government should be more transparent and accountable to their citizens.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Gary. I'm a professor at UCLA Law School and executive director of its Promise Institute for Human Rights. Refugee protection under international law is at an all-time low, with increased state cooperation to deter refugees through grave rights violations. Further, refugee protection is applied in a discriminatory fashion, largely unavailable to marginalized groups, including refugees who are Black, brown, or fleeing the global South. The current emphasis on soft law instruments facilitating operational protection as charity, rather than holistic protection as legal obligation, must change now. Cooperation and compliance for refugee protection must respect the rights of all and requires a balance of global hard and soft law mechanisms inclusive of all stakeholders, foremost impacted individuals and communities.
I'm Rebecca Hamilton, Professor of Law at American University, Washington College of Law, and currently on a Fulbright at the Islands and Small States Institute in Gold Coast. Our ongoing failure to address the structural racism embedded in our international institutions, our inability to secure compliance from some of the world's most powerful corporate actors, and the unaccountable use of digital technology to manipulate our information ecosystems, all reduce the likelihood of reaching consensus on what issues even merit cooperation. The signature challenge of our lifetimes, anthropogenic climate change, should serve as a unifying wake-up call to spur global cooperation. But without also addressing these other systemic problems, we'll continue to hamper our own progress.
I'm Holger Estermeier, a professor of international and EU law at the Diplomatische Akademie Wien, the Vienna School of International Studies. International law is in crisis. Commitments on climate change fail to effectively tackle the most existential risk to our species. International law has not protected Israel from the attacks of October 7th. nor civilians in Gaza from bombing and famine, nor Ukraine from aggression by its neighbor, nor Syria, nor Sudan. Time and again, Henkin's assertion that almost all nations observe almost all principles of international law almost all of the time rings hollow. But the shortcomings of international law are a call to arms. The system we inherited needs to be rebuilt for our times. Cooperation is not a choice, it's a necessity.
Hi, I'm Glyder Hernandez. I'm a professor of international law at the University of Leuven in Belgium. Behind us you see the lovely university library. I just wanted to read out my statement for you about where I see international law moving in the 21st century. In short, international law will remain a formidable, powerful instrument, but I fear it will remain an elite tool of governance, one that only works in the hands of those who know their way around the toolbox. For me, the question is whether we can rise to the imminent challenges which loom before us. And though recent years hardly inspire confidence in our capacity for solidarity, I dare hope that we will continue to fumble towards a shared sense of our common humanity. It is not only legal or institutional change that we need, but I feel that a greater empathy towards one another may be the quickening element that might unlock the potential for international law to serve as an instrument for global collective action and to drive meaningful change.
I'm Harold Hungju Ko, Sterling Professor of International Law at Yale University and former legal advisor and Assistant Secretary for Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor at the State Department. I'm optimistic that international law will go back to the future, which means going back to where we started in building a global international legal order. I'm also optimistic that what should be, will be. The international legal order should become more humanistic and inclusive. Cooperation and compliance should be less state-centric, more transnational, and less dualist, more driven by future issues and past disasters, and more attuned to rapid changes in technology and culture, and less intent on maintaining the status quo. The system should be more focused on the justice of the order than just on order itself. And finally, the international legal order must deliver results, not just hope. That's my hope for the future.
Let us thank this remarkable signature topic team in terms of all they've done, creating connections, working with others, and addressing these critical issues.